It's about to go down.
This is Idaho Sports Talk with Prater and the Ball Game.
It's about to get crazy. It's gonna be loud. This is our we do what we wanna. We'll pull the roof up. Everybody's coming. It's about to get crazy.
On Sports Radio 95.3 FM and 1350 AM, The Ticket.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Idaho Sports Talk on a Friday. And we are combining our Bronco Nation News Report with BJ Rains with our guest here at 4 o'clock. And that's the Director of Athletics at Boise State, Jeramiah Dickey. Jeramiah, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, good afternoon, and thanks for having me on. Go Broncos.
Yeah. And we're obviously on a bye week this week, so everybody's looking at what happened in the first 7 games of the season, looking to the next 5 in the regular season. And I know everybody not happy with the 3 and 4. Everybody wants to be 7-0. So as you take a look at the way the program in any sport, but particularly this football team through the first half of the season, how do you go about evaluating things?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and something that I like to keep close to my vest in terms of dealing with 18 sport programs and the head coaches that I get to lead. And as an athletic director, you want to be at a place that has high expectations, and that's why I'm here, right? And that's why Andy's here, and we understand what the expectations are, and if anything, I'm grateful. I'm grateful because that's opportunity, and I'm really proud of how our student athletes are showing up, and how our coaches and staff and the team that I control and lead. And I can't say enough about them. It's been a challenging week, but that's what comes with a job like this. And if you can't handle it, you shouldn't be in it. And so I am grateful for that.
Jeramiah Dickey, Boise State's athletic director. He's going to join us for about the next 15 minutes. We're talking football. We're talking Andy Avalos. We're talking about the future of this program and certainly the present. Well, I want to hear it in your own words, because I know everybody's disappointed. I'm disappointed. Bob's disappointed. Heck, even JP is disappointed. And Andy Avalos at his press conference, and kudos to him. Again, I told you I don't remember a sitting athletic director coming in and doing a live interview during a time of angst. The same goes for a football coach. I really appreciate the access, and Andy Avalos certainly wasn't happy, and he's certainly disappointed. Put it in your own words, how you feel about this football team so far this year.
Yeah, I think similar to what Andy said in his press conference. I'm equally disappointed with him and our players, and seeing how it's the view that maybe fans don't get to see. That was a hurt locker room. And as a leader, and someone who cares very much about these guys, I'm in the foxhole with them, and I have their back, and I love them to death. And yeah, like, are we disappointed? We're held accountable to wins and losses, and we understand that. I said it earlier. I am a Bronco because of the expectations. I wanted to be somewhere where it mattered and it counted, and it matters here. And I appreciate that, and I've asked Bronco Nation to step up, and they have. And I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for what's ahead of us. I'm not, I always see opportunity, and I'm not saying I'm an outlier in that case, but I think when you're a leader of a department and a leader of these young men and women and staff, and there's going to be ups and downs, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and but I'm here for the fight, and I'm here to keep moving, and I'm grateful for that.
Also joined by BJ Rains. He's going to jump in here in a second. This is the Bronco Nation News Report. We do this every Friday right here on Idaho Sports Talk. You talk to Andy Avalos constantly during the football season and outside the football season. I don't know how regular they are, and if they go good things or bad things. You guys have these avenue of communication. How much do you talk to Andy Avalos during the week? And in the last couple of weeks, what are some of those conversations? Because I don't remember getting any invitation to those meetings.
Yeah. It's in the mail. Yeah, when you're the AD, and especially my involvement with football, I talk to Andy all the time, and that hasn't changed. And I talk to all of our coaches, or try to as much as I possibly can. There is that level of expectation when you're the AD of a brand like ours and the head coach of our football program. And sometimes, I think Andy and I can connect in a certain way in terms of of what it's like to be the leader of a brand and the pressure that comes with it and the expectations. But, if anything, we're there to build each other up. I'm in the foxhole and I understand, I've been through enough seasons where there's ups and downs and understanding no matter what I say, I'm going to probably upset half the Bronco Nation. The other half will be fine with it. I'm going to be my authentic self. And in times like this, that's when you look in the mirror and it's those man or mouse moments. And when I look at Andy, I'm right there with him, and we're going to face this head on. We have a lot of games left, and we have opportunities ahead of us, and that's what we concentrate on. What can we control? What's next mentality, and it's this 1-0 approach, and that's what I choose to control. And in these moments, that I'm not going to lie and say it's fun, right? But at the same time, you heard Andy talk about his faith, and my faith's important to me. And, my identity is not in this. It's something greater. And, and I think that provides perspective for me. I can assure you Bronco Nation's getting 100% of Andy. They're getting 100% of me and our team, and we're going to keep fighting.
This is the Bronco Nation News Report here on KTIK Idaho Sports Talk. BJ Rains, we got Mike Prater, we got Bob Beeler. We're joined by Jeramiah Dickey. We're also streaming on the social media channels of both KTIK and Bronco Nation News if you want to check us out. And Jeramiah, take us back to when you hired Andy Avalos. Like, you got the job a week later, all of a sudden you're flying to interview Jeff Choate and Andy Avalos and having to make this decision. Take us back to just what that first week was like. I don't know if we ever asked you about that, but now you look back at it and the search committee kind of hands you an envelope with a couple of names and you're kind of deciding what to do, and just take us back to what that was like.
Well, one, BJ, thanks for going to soccer last night. It was good to see you and the fam, and really cool to be there with for Jim. Yeah, I'm not sure we have talked about it, and I'm not sure I ever said that I interviewed Choate, but I know some media member jumped out of a bush like a ninja.
It wasn't me.
No, this was where we were interviewing. That was crazy. That was one of the first most uncomfortable moments I had as a new AD. But yeah, it was a hectic week. And, when you accept a job sight unseen, and I was in Illinois at that point, had to drive back to Texas, had 48 hours to get on a plane and get back here, did my first interview or first press conference ever. So nervous, don't remember what I said. And then that afternoon I started interviewing candidates. That's part of the job. And, it was a good process. And, it's something that I feel I very much feel like our due diligence, in terms of what that process looked like and being able to navigate it that week, not how you would draw it up, obviously, as a new AD. And at the same time, it is what it is. I don't think I was an outlier. I think Tennessee had to do something similar, and maybe UCF. And, there were a handful of schools that just in terms of what we were navigating made it a little more uncomfortable than what maybe a traditional process would look like. But it's what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that was something I got thrown into the deep end early on, and we swam. So
Well, Jeremiah, tell us about the role that boosters play as well in all this, and guys that actually write paychecks to the university. And certainly you guys are trying to raise as much cash as you can right now. You're trying to build that North End Zone project, and everybody wants to talk about buyouts and things like that. But how many conversations are you having with boosters, with advertisers, folks like that, folks that are helping support this university? And I know everyone thinks it's your decision when it comes down to hiring, firing, or whatever with a coach, but I know there's more involved in that. What's it like in terms of involving other folks that are supportive of the university when it comes to major decisions and things?
Specific to hiring a coach?
Just in general, when you have to make a big, tough decision that involves money and folks are writing checks for things. I know we're talking about Andy Avalos and his job status, I guess, moving forward, but just in general, when it comes to something that's going to cost $3-5 million, whatever. How much do everybody thinks the athletic director, the president, you guys obviously make the ultimate call, but how much do you take input from boosters and other folks involved that write checks for you guys when it comes to big decisions you have to make?
Well, one, in general, I'm a fundraiser at heart. And so win or lose, it doesn't matter what sport. Like I'm always trying to connect with our donors and our supporters, whether it's socially, whether it's their email, whether it's calls, meetings. That's important to me. It's important to us, and that's going to continue to be part of who I am, and that's the side of business I come from. When as it pertains to decision making, I'm the athletic director, and at the end of the day, my job is to best prepare these student athletes and provide the support necessary for our coaches and staff, and I understand what the expectations are of a place like this, which, like I said earlier, I'm grateful for, and that's what I'm concentrating on as I move forward, is how can I do and look in the mirror and do 1% more to be a part of this, and to see the opportunities ahead. And I think that's what a leader is supposed to do, and I'm excited that we have unbelievable kids, and they're working their tails off, and they're committed to the process, and that's what I concern myself with, and that's what I'm doing on a daily basis.
Jeramiah Dickey joining us on Idaho Sports Talk, part of the Bronco Nation News Report, along with BJ Rains, Mike Prater, Bob Beeler sitting in for Johnny Ballgame today. So as we come out of a bye week, have time between the last game that didn't go so well and a big game coming up at home Saturday against Wyoming. Jeremiah, what are your expectations for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I look in the mirror and say, what else can I do to provide the best possible experience, to our programs, and that's something that I'm bullish on. I when I get up after, whether it's a win or a loss, guys, quite honestly, I look in the mirror and say, what else can I do? And I have a lot of teammates that are around me doing the same thing, and that makes me very proud as a leader of this department. And as I look ahead, it's not just the next home football game. It's hosting cross country championships. It's a first place soccer program. Every sport right now, I think, is outside of gymnastics, is competing this fall. We got men's and women's basketball starting. There's not a lack of work, for sure. And I'm going to keep showing up and do everything I can to support these men and women off the field of play, and try to provide the best possible experience. That's what it means to be, a leader in college athletics. And we're here to serve, and we're going to continue to do that.
Boise State Athletic Director Jeramiah Dickey. We're talking about the state of this football program. We're talking about Andy Avalos. I want to talk about Andy just a little bit. And there's a very loud, group of fans out there who want Andy Avalos fired, and it's social media angst. I get it. I'm assuming they're sending you some emails. I said yesterday on the show that I firmly believe, as loud as those guys are, at least 60% of the fan base is in support of Andy Avalos, at least in terms of letting him finish this body of work this season. So in terms of the Andy Avalos and those groups and those people that are flooding your email, what do you say to the Fire Andy Avalos group?
Quite honestly, I choose to control what I can control. And, at the end of the day, that's continuing to show up and serving and providing the necessary resources for us to find success. And, it's why, I'm so vocal on collective and name, image, and likeness and fundraising. I understand what this industry is. I understand where it's going. And I know that my responsibility is to find more. And whatever we don't have, we're going to go out and get. And, and I choose to concentrate on that. As an athletic director, you never win by enough. You never call the right plays. You never go to the right bowl. It's never good enough. And once you understand that, and I don't want to lump everyone in. I'm so grateful for guys, for Bronco Nation.
Sure.
Like, you've seen them show up. I'm fine with the opinions, and I'm fine with the naysayers. Like, if you're buying a ticket, you have the right to be a naysayer, so be it. But at the end of the day, there's only so much that we can control. And that's something that I'm going to continue to go out and put my best foot forward and do everything I can to serve this team and these student athletes. I care very much about them.
I know your expectations are high, and so is Andy Avalos's, and this is a hypothetical, so I kind of have an idea of where it's going. But under any circumstances, because you have to think about these, you have to be proactive. That's a very important part of what you do, is being proactive. Under any circumstances, can you see having to make a change in the middle of a season, regardless of what sport it is and where it is, and what those pros and cons? Have you ever weighed those kinds of decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think as an athletic director, everyone expects you to know everything, and that is a big part of the job. And When you had asked the question earlier in terms of evaluating coaches and programs, that's something that is important to me, and it's something that I keep very close to the vest, because that's between me and our head coaches and the student athletes, and so it's not something that I've thought about in much detail. I've been a part of a lot of programs, and you see obviously other ADs handle things differently, but
Yeah.
I am who I am, and this is I'm choosing to look at the positive, and to find that extra dollar, to find that extra 1% that we all have in each in ourselves, to put our best foot forward to help this team, support this team, and I believe in them, and I believe in our staff, and I'm excited for this Wyoming game to get football back.
That is Jeremiah Dickey, the voice you hear, the athletic director at Boise State. This is Idaho Sports Talk. Mike Prater, Bob Beeler, BJ Rains, as well as we also stream on the social media channels of Bronco Nation News. And Jeremiah, we heard a lot from Andy Avalos at the press conference about how young this team is, one of the youngest teams in America, how they were 6 points away from being 6-1. What is your thoughts on this season, on the 20-13 record of Andy Avalos, and where this program is at? I know you kind of touched on it, but it sounds like Andy feels like this program is very close to turning a corner, whether it's the rest of this season, whether it's next season. How do you just look at the Andy Avalos tenure, I guess, to this point? And do you feel like you guys are as close as he seems to think you are?
Absolutely. I believe in the process. I see the players we're playing. I see the recruiting that's being done. I see the work that's being done on and off the field of play. My job is to see everything, and so yeah, I'm a believer. I know that and you guys know the stats better than me, but in terms of the underclassmen that are competing, I know that we have a young team, and I also know that we're not in the business. And Andy would say the same thing, to make excuses. Our job is to go out and perform, and do the best job we possibly can. And I believe in our process, and I look at the success of the last 2 years, and first year, obviously you're navigating COVID in some really uncomfortable situations, and the second year, went getting to 10 games, and coach of the year, and now this season we've had some peaks and valleys, and I think that's when you learn who you are, and that's the opportunity for us, and I think Andy spoke to it well this week, and I'm just excited to continue to support this program and do everything I possibly can to you know to support Andy, and I'm excited for Wyoming.
Jeremiah, I want to thank you for stopping in the studio today to visit with us. Appreciate it. We're looking forward to the Wyoming. You got us a nice start time, 3:30.
That's right. Yeah, no, I'm a little disappointed. We won't be able to probably use lights that night, but I'm excited, and it's going to be every game's important, and I look forward to seeing Bronco Nation. Can't thank you guys enough, and go Broncos.
Jeremiah Dickey. When we come back, we'll talk more about Boise State football next on Idaho Sports Talk on Sports Radio The Ticket.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studios, this is Ticket Traffic.
Headed west, nothing major going. A little bit of crowding at the 84-184 merge, but backups are not extensive. Maybe an extra minute or two through there should be okay. And then it looks great. Just get out near Eagle Road on through 10 Mile and really all the way out to Nampa right now going west. There had been a little bit of crowding eastbound approaching the Highway 16 spot where they're working on the overpass area, but it doesn't look like much there now. Eagle Road, of course, on Friday, going to be a little busy, mainly north-southbound stuff at Chinden. Chinden hasn't been too bad yet, headed west, even out around Highway 16 or Star Road.
This report is sponsored by Craig Swap and Associates. One call, that's all.
Injured in an accident, Craig Swap and Associates
This is a live stream of KTIK Radio, 95.3 FM, 1350 AM. The Ticket. We are on a commercial break right now. Just an FYI for the 75 of you still watching. We'll talk a little more Boise State football after the commercial break on KTIK Radio. So thanks to Jeramiah Dickey for joining us. We'll discuss what he said. You got thoughts? Put them in the comments. What'd you think from Jeramiah Dickey, Mike Prater, Bob Beeler, myself? We'll discuss here in a couple minutes when the commercial break is over on KTIK 95.3 FM. The Ticket.
This is Rich Eisen. Download the KTIK app and listen to me weekdays at 1 and all your favorite shows on Sports Radio The Ticket.
We are back on Idaho Sports Talk, part of the Bronco Nation News Report. BJ Range joining, Mike Prater and myself, Bob Beeler, sitting in for Johnny Ballgame. So what did you think of Jeramiah Dickey's comments on Idaho Sports Talk? Time for you, if you want to text in on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. Our number is 208-424-9300. Boise State on a bye week. Wyoming will be coming to town, 3:30 start time next week. All right, BJ, what did you make out of it? This is the Bronco Nation News Report, so you were part of this conversation. Your thoughts?
There we go. I was muted there. Sorry about that, guys. We had great viewership on the KTIK and BNN YouTube channel. Andrew said he skirted the firing question a bit, but gave it, thanks for him to sitting there and answering the tough questions. And, Bill said, do you think he said enough to make you believe Andy's secure for the rest of the season? What's he going to say, guys? I've already got my list going. He said what an athletic director should say. He's standing behind his coach. He's confident that the rest of the season they're going to win some games. certainly if they, go winless the rest of the season, I think we're going to have a different story. But there's not many athletic directors that are going to come on and say, yeah, we better go at least 3-2 or he's gone. I mean, it kind of was what we expected. I thought he showed confidence and voiced approval and confidence in his coach to this point. I mean, everybody wants to make a change right now, but there's still 5 games left to this season. And whether they go 8-4 or 3-9, I mean, there's a big delta left in the rest of this season. So, yeah, I get it. But I thought at this point in the season, appreciate him coming on. And I thought he said what an athletic director should, that he's standing behind his coach at this point, and we'll see what happens the rest of the season.
Yeah, BJ, I agree with you. And I wrote a column for Bronco Nation News the other day that talked about Jeramiah Dickey's role in all this. And the one word that I used was he needs to inspire. His job right now is to inspire his football team, his coaching staff, and those players by doing whatever he possibly can, resource-wise, words of encouragement, whatever. He needs to inspire him as a leader of this football team. So I'm glad he addressed that, because I think he even said those words, that that's my job, to help upraise, help lift these guys and give them what they need to succeed. So he's not going to play any hypotheticals. If Boise State beats Wyoming on Saturday next week, Andy Avalos is going to get a big raise. If Wyoming crushes Boise State with another heartbreaking, soul-crushing loss, I don't think Andy Avalos is going to get fired. So I really, truly believe that Jeramiah Dickey, unless this thing gets really, really south, and based on what we've seen now, that option certainly has to be on the table. But unless this thing goes really, really south, I don't see him making any kind of change in the middle of the season. It doesn't make sense to me. It creates way more chaos. I know everybody wants to jump on it now because of the factor of timing and the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness and all that kind of stuff. But there's no good time to fire a coach, and I think it's even worse in the middle of the season. I was appreciative that he came on here, said he was disappointed. If I was the sensational editor, I would write Jeramiah Dickey, disappointed in Boise State football would be my headline, because he is disappointed, and he said he was disappointed, but at that point, he's got to be a leader and take over and really try to do what he can to give these guys the support to go off and succeed.
And I'll say this. Oh, sorry, Bob.
I was going to say Andy Avalos is disappointed too. I think everybody here is disappointed. I think the bye week came at the right time. And Boise State has talked all season about lack of consistency. And when you look at this football team, they have looked good at times, look very good at times, and other times they have not. And I think maybe having that extra week, not only to get some people healthier, but as a coaching staff to kind of fine tune some things, decide where you want to go for the stretch. I think the bye week, while it may have been long coming off such a sour taste in your mouth, you'd like to wash that taste out of your mouth. I think in the end for Boise State, for the improvement of this football team heading down the stretch, I think you couldn't have asked for a better spot for the bye.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I'll say this. I mean, Mike, I asked the question about Andy Avalos being hired because I think that, he'll never admit it. Nobody will ever say it, but that was a tough spot for him. He comes in, the search committee hands him a folder with 2 or 3 names. And if he was, hiring his own coach from the start, it may have been a completely different list. And so I do think that is a factor here. And, he talked about, the finalists and whether it was Jeff Choate and Avalos and making the hire. And I think a lot of us thought Avalos was the hire all along. And technically, I guess, yes, this is Jeramiah Dickey's hire. But when you're hired a week or 9 days, whatever it was before the head coach, he had a hand in it, yes, but they were already fairly far down this process with the head coaching hire. And so I do think that at least is some factor when it comes to, Jeramiah Dickey after the season having to make a decision or think about things. It had to be a tough spot for him. I think everybody thought Andy Avalos was the slam dunk hire. I think we're all surprised it hasn't worked out better than it has to this point. But obviously just the fact that he came in a week before Avalos was hired, I still think is a little interesting, if not noteworthy in all this.
No, I think it is. And Bob and I had that conversation in Cubicleville earlier today and you used the word slam dunk hire, which isn't wrong. I used the word safe hire. I mean, for a guy that's been on the job 7 days to go off and hire Andy Avalos, nobody's going to criticize that. Everybody thought that this was the great hire at the time. Certainly everybody wanted Kellen Moore. And I know that the search committee gave him a couple of more names, and Scott Frost was on that list. Brian Johnson was on that list as well. I don't know how deep that process became.
Graham Harrell. I understand Graham Harrell was on that list as well.
There you go. That's another one that popped up a little bit. And I don't know how any official those things got, but I don't think anybody's criticizing the hire. I think it was the right hire. Let's see how it plays out. BJ, here's the tough question for you, because I think at the end of the day, and I might be off one game here, one game there, but Boise State's going to win a couple of games, and they're probably going to lose a couple of games. And at this point, I think you're looking at 6-6, maybe 7-5. let's go ahead and throw 5-7 on the table, which I think would be a little bit of a stretch, but let's go ahead and throw that out there. Under any circumstances, do you see Jeramiah Dickey making any kind of change at the end of this season?
Oh, I mean, if they go winless the rest of the way and they're 3-9, I mean, yeah, I think you'd probably have to. I don't think that's going to happen. I still think they find a way to get to a bowl 6-6. You got to go 3-2 the rest of the way. I think they find a way to at least get to a bowl game this year. And personally, I think if they get to a bowl game, Andy Avalos is back next season. You hear what Andy said, and he talks about the youth on this team. He talks about how close they were. And, you could go the other way too. They're 11 points from being 1-6. I mean, I get it. It goes both ways. But in general, I feel like Andy truly believes they're very close. And you hear Jeramiah Dickey talk, at least publicly right now, he's saying that he believes in what Andy Avalos is saying. He believes they're very close to getting this thing going. And it's been a rough season. I get it. And I know a lot of fans wouldn't like this, but if they get to a bowl game, I think you probably give Andy Avalos another year and hope you see massive improvements, and he'll squarely go on the hot seat into next season for sure. But anything short of a bowl game, I think you have to seriously consider a change. If you're 5-7, 4-8, 3-9, he didn't really want to answer the question or didn't understand the question about the boosters and their impact and all this, but there's certainly guys writing some big checks that do have a big say in what happens with all this. And so, the Tommy Ahlquist of the world that we've had on BNN, like, I get it. They all love Andy Avalos, but at some point you got to have the results on the field. And so I am leaning after hearing, I thought after the Colorado State game, if you would have asked me right then, Mike, I would have said chances are he's not back next year. But based on talking to some people, based on hearing Andy Avalos talk, based on hearing Jeramiah Dickey talk, if they can just get to a bowl game this year, 6-6, which 3-2, again, not easy. They got to beat some tough teams to get 3-2 the rest of the way. Yep. But I think if that happens, I'm leaning towards Andy Avalos getting another chance in 2024.
BJ, thanks so much for joining us today for the Friday edition of the Bronco Nation News Report on Idaho Sports Talk.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend.
Coming up next, we have an update from JP. The puck is going to drop in downtown Boise this weekend, tonight and tomorrow. Steelheads open their season. JP with details next on Idaho Sports Talk on Sports Radio The Ticket.